If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. I could probably end the list right there, but I'm going to continue. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. Speaking from personal experience, creating a podcast felt so overwhelming. I didn't know where to start, but using Anchor was a no-brainer. Their website and app is user-friendly. You're able to navigate through it easily. It's pretty cool, guys. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. A one-stop shop. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. On this week's episode of the Indie Center podcast, we sit down with commercial print model and 2020 Mrs. Germany World, Sandahl Taylor. But before we get into that, a word from our sponsors. This episode of the Indie Center podcast is brought to you by Spotify, the place where you can listen to your favorite artists and podcasts for free. Did you hear me? You don't even need a premium membership. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcast so you never miss an episode. Are you subscribed to me yet? Wink, wink. Premium users can download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, and that is so convenient. How many times have you found yourself in an airplane or driving down a road with no reception and you just want to escape but can't? You are stuck sitting next to somebody that snores, or you're stuck in a meaningless conversation and you just want to listen to podcasts. Well, now you can, guys. And you can easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app and search for Indie Center Podcast on Spotify, or browse podcasts in the Your Library tab. Also, make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode. All right, episode number 17, first episode of 2020. I am here with a commercial print model. This is a lengthy resume. Former 2018 Mrs. Pennsylvania, America. She was 2020 Mrs. Germany World, and former Allegheny County 2018, 2017, and 2016. She was also an advocate for American Heart Association. I am here with Sandahl Taylor. Mrs. Sandahl, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you? Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'm just so grateful.
I'm doing great, and thank you for jumping on. It's a pleasure to sit down and have this talk with you. So, I mean, you do have a lengthy resume. I hope I could get all the bullet points down, but I want to get right to the start. When did you start with commercial print modeling?
So I've been modeling ever since I was a really little girl. My dad was a hobbyist photographer growing up, so I spent a lot of my life actually behind the camera, learning about lighting and all of that. And then actually growing up, I decided to start doing work for Sears catalogs and so on and so forth. And it kind of just evolved from there.
Nice. Was your dad behind the whole Sears campaign too, or was he your manager?
No, he was not. But I just kind of grew up working with him and kind of following his work with photography and fell in that kind of love of an aspect. And then one day I just decided that, well, if all these other people can do it, why can't I?
Okay. So yeah, my next question was any training prior, but I'm guessing that your father kind of trained you on behind and in front of the camera, correct?
No, actually, he was more or less allowing me to choose what I wanted to do. He never pushed me to do anything that I never wanted to do. So all my training was done by myself.
Nice.
I did a lot of DVDs, videos. I attended a lot of free workshops and stuff like that because at the time we really didn't have a lot of money. So I was self-trained, as well as, just really focusing on just what information was out at the time that I could get available with public library access, what little bit on the internet was there at that time, because that was some time ago. And then really just looking out at the networks that were around me in my area that I could evolve from. Magazines, sitting in my bedroom, posing in the mirror every day, those kinds of things that I was able to do.
So all that preparation brought you to Sears. I'm guessing is your first job. Was that like nervous for you? Or did you have jitters inside of you getting on set for the first time?
I honestly don't remember very much of my very first time. I was really young when I did it. I was in third grade, and I just remember that it was for a glasses catalog, because that was the very first time I started wearing glasses. So I really don't remember much of that at that time, but I do know, but I can tell you that I'm nervous every time.
Really?
Something my dad left inside me is that being nervous actually makes you very humble. And I think that anytime you step onto a stage, or anytime you step into an interview room, especially for things that I do, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts, and not everybody can do that. And it wasn't always easy for me to talk in front of thousands of people. And so I'm very humble and blessed just to have that opportunity that so many other people would not have.
Oh man. So you still get nervous to this day for any venture you go into?
Yeah, especially when you get on stage. That very first moment that you hit the stage is very nerve-wracking, or the very first time where you're getting ready to speak. I still get a little bit of butterflies in my stomach, just because it just reminds me that I may have never had this opportunity at one point, and that there's so many people out there that lost their life, that lost their voice, that don't have this opportunity. So yeah, I do. I still get nervous every day.
All right, so let's jump into pageants. How did you get into that? How did you go from commercial print to pageants?
So long story short, I did a lot of modeling pageants. I did a lot of bikini competitions. I did a lot of ring girl competitions. I was actually a ring girl for Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson, which is pretty cool.
Oh, no way.
Here in the area, which is really awesome, and it was really blessing. And I always wanted to do pageantry, but I was very young when I had my son. I was 19 years old when I had my son. And at that time, this was back, in 2007, there really weren't pageants out there that were for women who have had kids that were that young. So I was pretty young. And there's typically now 3 types of pageants. There's pageants for Miss, which is MISS, which is typically you're going to find those unmarried, under the age of 27, and typically in those types of pageants, now not all of them, but most of them, they have a requisite that you cannot have children. So that's big. Nowadays, there's a category that's newer. It's been around for a while, but I couldn't tell you honestly when it started, because by the time I actually found them, I ended up getting married. And there's Miss, which is MS, Ms. And that's kind of for people who are typically 27 and older, that can either have been divorced or have or may not have children. So that typically is for people who are also single. And then there is Mrs., which is MRS, which is the category that I'm in, and that's typically for women who are married. And then there's no stipulation on whether you can or cannot have kids. It just pretty much, the stipulation is that you have to be married. So for me, at that time, there just wasn't pageants out there that I was allowed to compete in, because I was single with a child.
Got it. So that kind of barred you from a lot of the pageants that you wanted to enter.
Yep.
So what was the first pageant that you got into?
So the very first true pageant that I ever competed in was the Mrs. Pennsylvania American Beauty pageant. And I did that in 2015. And I was Miss Pittsburgh American Beauty that year. And I won the interview award in that year, which was like really my first ever thing winning. So I've been competing for years and years and years, like I said, in all these other like bikini competitions and all this other stuff. And I never won or placed. So that was like my very first kind of taste into pageantry. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the aspect of really telling somebody my story and telling somebody about why I chose this crazy thing called pageantry. And I fell in love with what pageantry also me, and for what I, am out here passionate and promoting. And it's really amazing whenever you see it firsthand. So that's kind of what I fell in love with.
So what's needed behind the beauty pageant? Because it goes beyond beauty. You're talking about interviews and seeing what you want to stand for. What what are the requirements besides, not having children, not being married, or whatever category you're going to go into? What do
So
people
it
look
really
for?
just depends on you. I feel like this is going to sound cliche, but there's a system that's out there for everybody. So like I mentioned before, now in today's society, there are pageants out there for women who are still younger, like I was at 19, and that have children that may not still be single. You know what I mean? Or there's pageants that are out there for people who don't have kids. So typically your aspects that you're going to want to look for are whether or not you want to put on a swimsuit. There are pageants that have swimwear. There are pageants that don't. Whether or not you have a talent. There are pageants that have a talent portion. There are pageants that don't. Whether you are wanting an interview pageant, an evening gown, and so forth. So for my pageant system, which I'm a part of the Mrs. America organization, that's MRS, and also the Mrs. World organization, which they're sisters companies. My pageant has a swimsuit portion, which is a one piece for married women, which is amazing. We have interview. We have costume, which at the state level is your state costume, and then at your national level, which is the Mrs. World, it's your national costume.
Okay.
And then you also have evening wear as well as your interview. So it just depends on what you do. So for me, like I said to you, I represented Germany at the Mrs. World competition as my heritage, and I was Little Red Riding Hood, complete with her big bad wolf. So I had a little Red Riding Hood costume, and I had a big bad wolf who was on a skateboard, who came with me on the stage, and it was really awesome.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I ended up winning an award for it. Actually, I ended up winning the most whimsical costume, which was pretty cool because I did not expect that. And I really say that I credit my wolf for winning because he's the cutest. He's like a little stuffed wolf. And all the kids wanted to play with him. And, I really felt like he did it. He was the one who won the award, not me. But
that's
it was
cool.
probably fun. So I always say there's a pageant out there for everyone. There's even pageants for men. So
Really?
I just tell people yeah, there's so much out there that, if it's something you're interested in doing, there's something out there for you.
I had no idea. The only thing that I thought that was like a manly competition would be like bodybuilding. I didn't know there was such a thing as pageants, beauty pageant for men. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. So any lessons taken away from the pageant world that you could apply into everyday life?
Yes, there is. First things first is confidence. In pageantry, you learn a lot about yourself, and you learn how to portray that to an audience or judges or both, depending on your circumstance. So I feel like confidence is definitely necessary in every aspect of life. The second thing is sisterhood or just connection. I have a sister queen in 48 countries now, in 52 different states. And in my state, from my side of the state into the complete opposite side of the state. So when I say that means that I can literally go in my phone and reach out to somebody if I'm having a bad day, that I have now found a network of support. And the last thing is, of course, the best thing, I think, and that's communication and budgeting. Communication is such a lost form. And for me, it's communication with my family and my husband in particularly, because you have to be a great team in order to, do something like this at this level. And your family has to be on board. But you also have to budget. You have to budget, like, what do you want to spend? What do you want to get out of it? And you have to budget your time, really. And for me, I just made it work with what I was already naturally doing. And then adding in where I needed to add in. And that's kind of how I completed it.
Okay. It's really important for you to have that supportive system around you, especially going into this competitive environment that you're in. You need to have that, strong backbone, like your husband that supports you, your family. That's great. What was the best advice given from the inside?
You mean from inside pageantry?
Correct.
So I have to personally say that the best advice that I was ever given, which I have mentioned it before if you listen to some of my other podcasts, is that you are the only person that knows you. You are I'm the only Sandahl Taylor in the world. I can only be me. Be the best version of you that you can be on that day. because you're not in competition with anybody else in that room but yourself. And that sounds really crazy, but it's on that day,
it does.
a different judge, a different way you walked, a different way that you smiled could have been a different outcome. But if you go in there and you give it your all and you know that you did everything that you could, you're going to walk away winning no matter what happens.
So I heard you say that on Beyond Average Thoughts, a podcast that you were on a few weeks ago. I found it really intriguing because you say you're in competition with yourself, but you're competing against, other women. I've seen it a lot where, the second runner-up or the third runner-up, they don't win, they get upset. Did you ever get that bitter feeling, or did you ever feel like that should have been me? Like, do you get that feeling? Was there ever a competition in the past that you've gotten it?
So what I will tell you is that there's always a part that you wish you could do better. And of course, we've all felt that we could have done better. I am genuinely going to tell you that there is a reason that I lost every single time.
Okay.
There's a reason, maybe a reason more than what I already know, whether it was from the feedback from the judges or from the feedback from audience members or just in my heart. I can tell you that when I went to Mrs. America in 2018, I knew in my heart that I wasn't going to place. I knew that in my heart when I stood on that stage that my name wasn't going to get called. And of course, are you sad for a brief second? Of course you are, because you spent a whole year preparing. You go out there, but I knew that I wasn't ready. I knew that in my heart, I wasn't able to do some of the things that these other amazing women were able to do. I knew in my heart that there was other things going on in my life at the time, with, my kids and especially my son being autistic at the time, that was really preventing me from doing the things that I wanted to set out to do. And I knew in my heart that I wasn't mentally, physically, emotionally 100% ready.
Got it.
But that's why I decided to go back for Mrs. World in 2020. And I just recently came back from that, actually. And I did not have that same feeling. When I left Mrs. World, I knew that I did everything that I could. There were 5 very specific things that I wanted to do differently that I wasn't able to do in 2018. Not only just because I just didn't know any better. There's a lot of things that I didn't know how to do, what to do. When you're new to competition, there's a lot of things. And I did all of those things. And when I left the stage in 2020, just recently came back, I was really genuinely happy and very proud of myself, because I did all those things. I was proud of every woman who was on that stage. And I still was in 2018 because I got to know them. These women are amazing. Some of them are doctors, some of them are lawyers, some of them are accountants, some of them are survivors of domestic violence, some of them are suicide survivors, and you just really never know until you start talking and meeting these women. And I can say that God always has a plan, and no matter what's going to happen, his plan's going to happen, and that's exactly what happened. And I can't be more grateful. The current Mrs. World, Caroline Jury, she's amazing. She's sweet. She's kind. Her and I actually had the same hair and makeup artist for the week. She is the current winner. She came from Sri Lanka. I couldn't be more happy for her because genuinely in my heart, I knew that she's going to make a great representative, and I couldn't be more proud of her. And I can't wait to watch her year and see what she has, in store. But I also have my own plans and my own things that I'm going to do that I said I was going to do, and I'm going to keep doing them. This afternoon, I actually just came an event myself. And so, we all go there with a plan. We all go there with a purpose, and we all go there with a mission. And for me, my most importantly is I went in there and I told the judges that I have 134 appearances that I have planned as Mrs. Germany for the 2020 year. I just completed 2 of them this week. I just came back from one this afternoon, and I'm going to keep doing them. until I can't anymore.
Wow. So
no matter what, you have stuff that you want to do. Nothing's gonna stop that.
wow, 134 appearances. So you were talking about the preparation for the year leading up to the pageant, and I did my own little history lesson on pageantry last night. Found out that it's been going on for over 100 years, and the homework and the work that you have to put in after the fact. I know it's a year-long commitment after. So you have 134 appearances. What do the appearances mean? Like, what do you do with those?
So it just depends. It just really means like I'll say like an event.
Okay.
So it ranges from different things. I picked 134 specifically because my platform is heart health. So every 34 seconds, someone dies of heart health. So 134 appearances for me was the number that was my goal to hit as Mrs. Germany. So some of them range from, like today, I was able to give out blessing bags to 150 homeless people through a company that I'm volunteering with. Not, I shouldn't say work with. Down in my home city. So that's an appearance. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do something for my community. It could range from, reading stories at a library. A lot of the events that I do are giving back to the community. So for me, I created my own nonprofit. I'm working on the final phases of it now, called the Haircut Project.
Nice.
And I give out free haircuts to those who need. In the past 4 years that I've been actually starting to keep track. I've been doing this for over 10 years, but the past 4 years I've been keeping track of all the haircuts I've been able to do myself with this platform as pageantry. And I've been able to give over almost 1,500 haircuts in the past 4 years.
Wow.
I've been able to do in 4 years 447 appearances total. 50% of those appearances are directly related to my platform. I created my own event called Styling from the Heart, where I fundraise money for the American Heart Association. I'm working on creating an Empowered to Serve program here in my community, which is basically teaching weekly events where I can teach people about ways to become heart healthy, which I've already done throughout my social media platforms and whatnot. So it's really just taking small steps to make the next generation bigger. And that's really what I aim to do with my 134 appearances. So I do have specific things laid out throughout the whole year, but I know that my goal by the end of 2020 is to have at least 134, if not more, because that was my mission, in order to do this. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing over 2020.
So that's amazing, and I know a little bit about your backstory with your advocate for American Heart Association, but could you speak on that? Why are you so gung ho for that? What pushes you for that?
So 19 years ago, my life changed forever. My dad suffered a heart attack and stroke. He was very young, and I was there the day that it happened. And from that moment on, I knew that I had to do something. Fast forward about 3 years, at the age of 29, I actually thought I had a heart attack myself. I actually thought that my heart stopped while I was at work. And thankfully, it did not, but it turns out that I have something called MVP, which does not stand for Most Valuable Player. It actually stands for mitral valve prolapse, and it's basically a leaky valve. So how I like to describe it is the blood that's in your heart is in other places that it shouldn't be at any time during the day, night, doesn't matter what you're doing. And what happens when that happens is that your heart starts to pump way faster than it should, which causes your heart rate to go up, which is not always a good thing. So I have to be really careful, because if that happens too much, it could cause a negative effect. Then, moving forward, as I started to progress in doing things for the American Heart Association, one of my very best friends, Donovan, passed away from cardiac arrest, as well as my son was born with a heart murmur. So it just became more and more apparent that everywhere I was looking in my life, whether it was to my left or to my right, someone was affected by heart disease. And it just made it more and more clear that this is my purpose, that this is my passion. And so I speak about it at events. I have been a national TEDx speaker about it. And I always like to tell people, if you're in a room of 15 people, 1 out of 3 of those people are going to be affected by heart disease. Most of the time, it's going to be an African American woman or a Latino woman, which those statistics are astounding to me. And that at every 34 seconds, which is basically twice in a minute, someone dies from it. It's the number 1 cause of death in the entire world, let alone here in America, in Germany as well. And it's astounding to me that we could drastically reduce the number in 2 very easy ways. 1, by more people learning CPR. And number 2 is healthy tips and tricks, easy ways from literally how to eat to walking, things that we do every day, just more of it. And so that was my mission, and that's been my goal for the past 4 years. And for me, if I can save one person's life, then I've done my job, because I really feel like maybe had I would have known these signs and these symptoms earlier, my dad would still be able to walk and be here with me now. Even though he is still here, he's just paralyzed on the left-hand side. And I'm very grateful for that. But had maybe I known that the outcome would have been different.
That's amazing. That's inspiring, actually. I mean, you take the circumstances that you're in and the people that you're around, and you try to make a change for it. You try to be an advocate for it, and that's really inspiring. What's next for you? What's next for Sandahl?
For me, the first thing is I want to finish getting this nonprofit started. I'm really, really close. I have all the paperwork written. It's more about just waiting to get my financials together, so that I can get out there and start being more and more involved in my community. As far as competitions, I really don't know what's next. I really just have to wait and see. I always feel like God's going to open the door that he wants you to go through. So I'm just kind of keeping my stuff going, keeping myself busy, focusing a lot on my kids and what they're doing right now with the school year, stuff like that. But really for me, I don't really know what's next. I just know that I'm going to continue to get out there in my community and continue to give back. And like I said, right now my focus is getting this nonprofit started.
All right. Well, once you get it started, send that information my way. I'll gladly share it and support it. Okay. Do you have any word of advice for aspiring models or anybody that would like to jump into the pageant world?
Absolutely. And you may have heard me say this before, but first things first is never give up. I've been told to get liposuction. I've been told to lose weight. I've been told I was too short for this, too tall for this, too fat for this, too skinny for this. Don't listen to any of it. You only know who you are inside. As far as modeling is concerned, you're going to hear a million no's, but all you need is that one yes. And I'm going to be that one yes for you. If this is something that you want to do, you can do it. It's a lot of hard work, but it's fun and it's very worthwhile. As far as pageantry, same thing. Never, ever, ever give up. If you have a dream, you can do it. It may take you longer than you thought you could. You may not be able to do it the way you thought you could, but I promise you to never give up. And I always live by a famous quote that I like to say if I have time. So it's a quote that says, "Be a pineapple, stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside." And why I say those is because stand tall, be proud of who you are and where you came from. Like I said before, you only know you. There's only one you out there. I don't care if you even have an identical twin. They're not you. There's only one you. Wear a crown. There is someone out there that's looking up to you, whether you have a crown or a sash on or nothing. Someone out there is looking up to you. So wear that crown. You always have it, no matter if it's invisible or not. And be sweet on the inside. Kindness can change the world. I really believe that one small act of kindness has a ripple effect that can change the world. And if we can promote that kindness and we can promote that compassion and giving back, I really, really believe that it can take our next generation even higher. So stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside.
Where did you get that quote from? Because as you were saying it, I'm like, where is she going with this? And then when you said, at the very end with the sweet on the inside, I'm like, wow, that's strong. Where'd you get it from?
Honestly, I say it fell upon me. My friends and family know that I love pineapples. I love to eat them. I love to decorate with them. I don't really know where it's actually just a quote from someone else. I don't know who originally wrote it. But they actually, for a gift one year, they gave me this canvas that said this on there. And ever since then, I've just loved it and really kind of made it my motto, so to speak. It's not mine. I didn't write it. But I really loved and feel those words coming from inside of me. So I really just kind of grew into it. And so I don't know, everything around me is pineapple. So it's just very fitting for me. And like I said, you can really make it just about anything. It doesn't have to just be about pageantry. It really has a stronger message than that. So I'm not sure who originally wrote it. That's a badass quote.
I like it. So, do you have any special shout outs?
I got a long list, man. Of course, thank you, Indy, for allowing me to be here today on this radio. I definitely would like to just take, a few seconds to shout out my amazing husband. His name is Kenneth. Babe, without you, I wouldn't be able to be there. I always tell him he's my knight in camo armor. He was the reason I'm allowed to do this. He made me want to continue to be a better version of myself. My sponsors, GoBobby.net, Carrie Ann from Dress Hot Couture, my amazing makeup sponsors, Ever Pretty in the Steel City, all the people that just got out there and helped me with ads, fundraising, Skeets Lewandowski, all you people just listening to my message. Thank you guys so much. Beyond Average Thoughts, because apparently, you listen to his podcast, got to make sure all my podcast peeps. I'm just so grateful that you guys are giving me this amazing platform to just share my story even more and more. And
all right.
I can't wait for them to hear this one.
Thank you for your message and everything you've said today. This whole entire time I'm sitting here with a smile on my face because the way you're speaking about it, I could feel the passion. Like I could sense you're passionate about this. You love this, and you're not just saying it. It's not just something that it's just coming out. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. I wish you nothing but the best. I hope that this year with 134 appearances comes closer to your end goal. And thank you for coming on, Sandahl. I really appreciate you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, please make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay centered on all Indie Center podcast episodes. If you are an independent creator and have a story to share and want to have a sit down, please email me at indiecenter.podcast@gmail.com. That's indiecenter.podcast@gmail.com. If you have sponsorship inquiries, I'd love to help local businesses. Please email me at indiecenter.podcast@gmail.com. Until next Monday, guys. Peace.